Good afternoon, everybody, or good evening, depending on where you are. My name is Awasar. I'm Assistant Director for Academic Affairs at the African Studies Center at Michigan State University. Welcome to our very special Eye on Africa. Eye on Africa is the center's weekly seminary series, and we are very honored today to have a group of speakers from the US, but also from Africa, mainly from Mali and Benin. Today's topic is building bridges between youth in the community and at the university in Mali and Benin. And we have 4 speakers. So before we start, I'm going to briefly introduce each one of them, and then I'm going to pass it to them for today's topic. So one of the speakers is Dr. Welore Tamboura, who is an assistant professor at the Institut Universitaire de Technologie of University of Letters and Human Sciences of Bamako. Her area of research is public communication, both through traditional information and communication techniques, such as direct to verbal communication or mediated communication, as well as digital communication to foster attitudinal and behavioral change. As an MSU Alliance for African Partnership visiting scholars in 2019-2021, she has worked in community and institutional peace building projects in Mali, including a partnership between Scientific Animation Without Borders, the Residential College in the Arts and Humanities, and the Malian Truth, Justice, and Reconciliation Commission, with the main objective of promoting social dialogue through storytelling, which was disseminated through video animation in 13 national languages in Mali. Dr. Welore, we are so glad that you are here. Welcome.
Thank you.
Another speaker for today is Marcy Hessling O'Neill, who is an assistant professor of anthropology at Michigan State University. She has conducted ethnographic research among students and their families in Benin and Ghana, West Africa, for more than 15 years. Her work focuses on access to education, gendered inequalities in the educational system, identifying and combating structural violence, and self-advocating strategies in low literate communities. O'Neill uses civic engagement as a key component, of course, his thought, most significantly with the Books That Bind project that led to the US Ambassador's Fund for Cultural Preservation. Hessling O'Neill is currently a gender equity and social inclusion technical lead on the USAID-funded Empower Youth project in Kenya. Thank you very much for being here and organizing this. We worked together mainly to put this together, so thank you, Marcy. Another guest is Dr. Bienvenu Azehoungbo, who is a faculty member at the Centre Béninois des Langues Étrangères, Université d'Abomey-Calavi, Benin Republic. Azehoungbo has 20 years of experience teaching at the university level, is an advocate of the use of national languages in primary education, and has brought his expertise to the project École et Langue, financed by the Ministry of Primary and Preschool Teaching. He has extensive experience collaborating with colleagues in linguistics within Francophone Africa, and was head linguist in the Books That Bind project to develop reading materials in 8 national languages in Benin. He has experience working alongside Azehoungbo in the translation and dissemination of educational animated videos. Bienvenue, you are bienvenue. We're very glad to have you here. Last but definitely not least, we have with us here Dr. Steve Esquith, who is a professor of political theory and ethics in the Residential College in the Arts and Humanities and the Department of Philosophy, Michigan State University. He has written on the rule of law, the problem of democratic political education, mass violence and reconciliation, and moral and political responsibility. He's the author of Intimacy and Spectacle and the Political Responsibilities of Everyday Bystanders. on mass violence and democratical education. He was a senior Fulbright scholar in Poland and in Mali. He is currently working with Dr. Tamboura and other colleagues on several dialogue and reconciliation projects in Mali in collaboration with Université des Lettres et des Sciences Humaines de Bamako, la Commission Vérité, Justice et Réconciliation du Mali, and Peace Education Project for Refugee Youth in Michigan. So we are very honored today to have you all. Welcome. And now I'm going to pass the floor to Marcy, who's going to start the discussion. Welcome, Marcy.
Thank you very much, I'll make sure I'm visible in the Zoom. I'm a little height challenged. Thank you all for being here. Oh, and also wanted to thank the Alliance for African Partnership for funding this project through the PIRA program, the Partnerships for Innovative Research in Africa. We're really grateful that we're reaching out for projects that we're going to bring together some connections between Francophone African countries. And we're really excited to be a part of that. And I have been working with Dr. Bienvenu Azehoungbo, as I said earlier, for many years. And it's really exciting to be able to bring him into the MSU community for the first time. So thank you for coming all this way. And also it was through the PIRA project that I got to meet Dr. Welore Tamboura. And I'm thrilled to be working with both of them. So the three of us are the co-PIs on this project, and Steve Esquith has been a wonderful mentor to us and has been really instrumental in bringing us together and helping us to realize some of the goals of this project. So I'm going to briefly tell you about the objectives of our project, and then I'm going to hand it over to my colleagues who are going to tell you a lot more about it. But our project is called Parole aux Jeunes, and this is the Youth Speak. And we were really trying to incorporate the voices of the youth. And a little bit later, I'll tell you about some of the challenges we had in making that happen and how we needed to adapt our program to really allow the youth to feel empowered to speak. But our objectives overall on this project were to build capacity and community engagement among the faculty at UAC and at ULSHB, where Welore and Bienvenu teach. And this is really important, and they'll talk more about this later, but in a context where community engagement isn't common, how do you incorporate that into your teaching? And how do you let your boss know that what you're doing is really teaching? How do you put this into your syllabus? How do you quantify what you're doing to give grades to your students? And these are all challenges that, that we all face when we do community engagement. And they will both talk about the different ways that this has worked and how it feels in each of their contexts. The second objective is to elevate youth voices through digital storytelling. And this takes several forms. And we know that the youth are really technically savvy. You can give them a smartphone that they've never seen before, or a tablet, and all of a sudden they're doing all kinds of crazy things, right? So we wanted to harness that, put these tools into the hands of youth, but also give them the training on how to do this more effectively and how to tell the stories that they want to tell, again, with the support of the project. The third objective is to strengthen research collaborations in Francophone Africa. And again, we'll talk more about this later, but how does a project like this make connections between people who may be working on related or what we might call adjacent issues in Francophone countries who haven't had the opportunity to interact with each other? How do we facilitate activities to make those connections happen and to strengthen those that are already there that exist? And the fourth objective, which we didn't necessarily have at the beginning of our project, but became a real big part of the project, was addressing the need for a new continuing commitment to everyday peace building. Again, Welore will talk a lot more about that. Steve will talk about that, but that has become a real key objective in our project. And so at this point, I'm going to hand it over to my colleagues who will talk about the contextual differences in what they are working with youth. And we're going to start with the context in Benin, and Bienvenu will take it from here.
Thank you, Marcy. Hi, everyone. I'm very happy to be here with you. It's my first time in MSU, and I would like to thank everyone for your welcome, for the warmly welcome I received here in MSU. I'm here to present you the result of our grants, PIRA grants in Benin. So like Marcy said, that we have many challenges in our country. In Benin, for instance, we have many NGOs that work in their site, but what they are doing in their site is not known by university. At the same moment, university are making research. We have many researchers that are carrying out many things that are not known by NGO. So it's a big challenge that we are facing. Another problem we have is unemployment of youth, because we have many of them that have gone to school, many that have not gone to school, but all of them are facing the same problem with work. And our students, for those who have the chance to go to school, they are not active because they need skills, the lack of kind of skills that can give them power to be themselves, to be independent. And another problem we have is the lower levels of literacy in our country. You know, for instance, in Benin, let's say 40% of the population have gone to school. The majority are at home and they speak our local languages. In this local language, they also need knowledge to know words, to know many other things. So we are facing this kind of challenges in my country. So it's why this project is a big opportunity for us now to overcome this kind of situation. Thank you. I will give the floor to Welore.
So thank you so much for being here with us. I'm so happy to come back to MSU and to present the project funded by AAP. So it's such a pleasure to be with you today and to see familiar faces. Okay, so like Bienvenu said, that we really try to target through this project challenges and social problems in our two countries. So linked to that in Mali, so I mean everybody know now since more than 10 years that Mali faced a political conflict and a really deep crisis. So we have many challenges that we are facing now. I just keep some of them that we really try to focus on through this project. So one of the main challenges is the violence and kind of distrust between our political institution and our local community. And another one is a kind of structural injustice that has led to a feeling of fears, resentment, anger, and frustration from people. And also the third one is not the less important, it's the lack of communication and dialogue between ethnic groups. And as we know, these last years, we have inter-ethnical conflicts. So for me, that's one of the worst things that can happen to a country. So Marcy, I'll let you.
So now that we know a little bit more about the specific context that were faced by the communities that we were going to deal with in this project, we really wanted to bring everyone together and strengthen and expand the networks of people who are already and who were already working on these challenges. And so some of the ways that we needed to do this, and again, I said that we learned to be resilient and we learned to adapt because of the situation we're in. I think all of us over the past 3 years have learned a bit more resilience, and we've learned to adapt more and to be more flexible. So one of the ways in which we did this was at the start of our project, which was in June 2021, we were deep in the heart of COVID travel restrictions, meeting restrictions, but we used technology. We ended up having some Zoom workshops, bringing together participants in Mali, in Benin, in the US, to try to come to an agreement on what our real objectives were of this project and how we viewed the specific partners. And we really wanted to use an asset-based approach. We didn't want to say, this is what's lacking here, this is what's lacking here. We hear that all the time, and we know this. What are our assets? What do we each bring to the table? And how do we make this an equitable partnership where both the community and the university are both giving and getting. And so we did some brainstorming on this online Zoom workshop, and we started coming up with some of the assets of the university. And this is a very, very short list. Of course, it's on a PowerPoint, it's got to be short, right? But some of our assets at the university are the scientific knowledge that we have. This is the basis of the university. But the other thing is our people. And we didn't throw in here the professors and the staff and everyone else at the university. Of course, we know that that is one of the assets, but our students are also a great asset. And then the networks that we have. Each of us in our own domain has a network, whether it's 2 people, 3 people, or 4 people. We wanted to expand those networks. And then the other one is the ability to do research. So a PIRA grant allows us to do research. We have this asset of doing research. What assets does the community bring? Community also has many assets. They're not just the ones who are receiving, you know, the beneficence of the university. They have assets as well that we at the university need. And these assets include relationships, not just with one another, within the people on the ground, as we say, but NGOs with one another, with other organizations, with their ministries, with their government. They also have an understanding of these challenges. They have an understanding sometimes much better than we do. We ask the community, what are your challenges? They have those assets. And the other thing that they have is this historical context of who has been working on this, what's worked, what hasn't, what led up to the challenges, what's been tried before and what hasn't worked. So what we wanted to do again in this project is bring together all of these assets and see if we can make some impact. And from there, we are going to try to achieve these objectives in 2 different ways based on the context in Mali and in Benin. And I'm going to take a step back now, and we're going to hand it over first to our colleagues who have been working in Mali. We're going to talk about peace building work. So Welore and Steve are going to talk about that. And then we're going to bring it to Benin. And one thing I think, if we're thinking about history, what we want to know is there has been a lot of groundwork laid for the work that is being done in Benin in this project. Whereas, in Mali on this project. Whereas in Benin, we have had a working relationship on a smaller project, but have not had this as community engagement at the university level with NGOs in a broader sense. And so the work that Bienvenu has had to do over this past 1.5 years is sometimes parallel to what Welore has been doing, but sometimes very different in trying to build those relationships. So you'll hear more about this later. And again, I'm going to stop talking and let my colleagues do the real talking. So I'm going to hand it back over to Team Mali.
So thank you, Marcy. As Marcy said, so we are both working in community engagement through 2 different subjects, I would say. So in Mali, that's the continuing work and continuation of work starting many years ago by Steve Esquith, and I joined in 2018. And we have developed different material, but we will mainly focus on what we call our Photovoice and everyday peace building in Mali. So I just wanted first of all to show you this map, not to tell you the story of, so that will be too long to tell the story of the conflict, etc. But if you are interested in, we can engage a discussion in Q&A about the reason of the conflict, etc. But I just wanted to show you this map that was from 2012. And as you can see, in 2012, Malian national territory was divided into 2 parts. More than 70% of the country was occupied by several armed groups. So I just wanted to show you that because this is very important. This occupation of the territory has a lot of consequences, internal, that's inside the country and outside the country. And also another important thing was in 2020, since 2020, we have a military regime, a political regime. And the consequence, the direct consequence of this occupation and the development of conflicts all around the country is the internal displacement of thousands and thousands of persons from the northern and eastern center of the country to the southern part in the country, mainly in the capital city, Bamako. So one of the consequences of this military, so I mean, the military and coup, several coups, I think 3 coups, maybe if I'm not wrong, 3 coups in 2012, I think so. But yeah, so and that also made the situation worse. So that now the conflict is not, I mean, is worse than in 2012, as you can see in this. So in 2012 to 2013, you can see that the number of the internal displaced, like we call IDP, internal displaced persons, increased in Mali. And then we had some kind of decrease of this number between 2014 to 2017, maybe linked to the signature of the Malian ceasefire and also the international intervention. We have French, European Union, and US. And since 2020, and this last year, with the military regime, US left, French left, European Union left. So we are facing that, and has been since 2018. The number increased again, and we are really facing, when you are working in the internal displaced camp, you really face that many people are still coming. They are running from kidnapping, they are running their village because the village has been attacked because of, I mean, many challenges to come to the capital city. So we have, so those are sources from the institution, national government institution, which work and run those IDP camps, 10 official IDP camps. So I say official because in those camps, you have an organization, you have government institution worker, NGOs, international organization, association, that you also have many unofficial camp, not camp, but people living all around the capital city. And this is organized, as I say, by the Malian government, but financially it's primarily supported by NGOs and the international organization, association, or also volunteer people who have, I mean, have financial support, also neighbor of the camp. So I will just Steve Esquith just giving you some how would I say explanation about what we call peacebuilding, what we call Photovoice project.
Okay, thanks, Welore. Thank you all for coming. So one part of the sort of conditions of life in Mali, similar to Benin, is the closing of many schools. Teachers have not been able to stay in their primary and secondary schools. The university has not been able to run on a regular basis. So in addition to the conflicts and violence, there is what we call kind of everyday sort of struggle and conflict, going to the market, going to school, staying safe in your neighborhood, and that idea of everyday peace and the absence of everyday peace is something that we see above and beyond the failure of peace accords to be enacted and new agreements to be signed. So we're kind of mindful that people's lives are changing on an everyday basis, not just at the highest levels of government and diplomacy. I'm going to quickly give you 3 words to use to keep track of the story that Welore is going to tell about our work in the IDP camps. The first word is peacebuilding, and some of you may be familiar with that. There are some famous definitions which are on the screen, but the important thing about peacebuilding from our point of view is that it sort of depends upon a kind of continued commitment to sort of engage in dialogue and discussion. It's not a matter of signing an agreement. It's not a matter of sort of peaceful coexistence and separation. It's a matter of engagement in dialogue and discussion across these lines of conflict that Welore has outlined. So that's one word, peace building, but think of it in its sort of richest sense, not just as a way of sort of closing the book on a conflict. It's really opening the door to further mediation of struggle and continued discussion. The second big word is a word that maybe is not quite as familiar, Photovoice. And the nice thing about Photovoice is you can deduce its meaning from the word, right? Unlike photograph. Photovoice involves, you guessed it, speaking and agency and being able to see the world through the eyes of the subject rather than the eyes of the observer, right? So if photograph is to draw a picture of somebody else's world, Photovoice is giving voice to the life and the struggles, and as Marcy so nicely described, the assets as well as the challenges in your life. So our sort of approach to peace building is through the voices of the very people who are engaged in those everyday struggles that I mentioned before. Finding a way to go to school, finding a way to go to the market, finding a way to sort of connect with their local political leaders, the mayors, the chiefs, the other political leaders. There are lots, many political leaders. So that's word number 2. And if I'm not mistaken, word number 3 is also a word that you're familiar with. Let's call it networks. So we're not looking for top-down sort of imposed peace building protocols and strategies. We're trying to create a network between different partners at different levels of society, at the level of sort of government and international institutions, at a middle level where there are local political leaders, heads of women's associations, heads of teachers groups, student organizations, and finally, at the local level, ordinary, we would call them ordinary citizens, and the people who do go to the market, who do depend upon sort of local leaders to provide them with information and support. So we're in the business of creating a network of networks, a kind of hybrid peace building that includes the highest levels, and that's why we work with the Commission for Truth, Justice, and Reconciliation. The middle levels, the local chiefs and mayors, heads of women's associations, and the ground level, the actual students and citizens. Some are school age citizens who are no longer in school. And all of these people are found coming in and out of the IDP camps. And that's number 3. So peace building, Photovoice, networks, those are our 3 sort of categories for understanding the work in Mali. And I think, no, and Welore wants to, oh, and I can name some names. They're up there on the board, on the screen. The partners are, as I mentioned, the Commission for Truth, Justice, and Reconciliation, Institute for Popular Education, the International Sports Alliance, the group that Welore has found at the university, which we've nicknamed the Collaborative Course in Peace Building, CCEP. Sounds a little like the old Soviet Union's initials. So don't mistake CCEP for those old guys. and the Malian Academy of Languages, Amalan.
Mhm.
Did I do that right?
Mhm.
Okay, now I can get out of the way and you can go to the camps, which we are not naming by name because we want to be IRB perfect. Okay. I want to do this. Oh, I can't get out of the way yet. One more thing before Welore takes you on that grand tour is that this work has been sort of gestating over a 3-year period where we've been working with groups from these community within this network who are now our team leaders. We call them team leaders. There are other groups other people who are professionals, professional photographers, other university professionals, and I would say community sort of leaders. So we have a cadre of people we've been working with prior to our entry into the IDP camps.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yeah.
You better save me here.
So I just wanted also to say that before that, we started a class that is like, I would say,
Oh,
a global
yes.
class.
Why don't you talk about that?
A global class, because this is very important, and that's the starting actually. When
Yeah.
I was here, and maybe I would say, thanks to COVID, because then we realized that.
Yeah.
So my students are in Mali. Our student I was teaching with Steve at ARCA. How can we get those together? Because all the two classes are about peace building and different challenge. And also one thing I wanted my students to really understand is that, yeah, you are saying that you are in Africa, you have challenges. The challenges are worldwide, maybe not the same, maybe sometimes the same. And we engage with discussion about challenge, about discrimination, about social injustice, about struggling through COVID. So because also same challenges, and then we continue through semester about education of preparation, that's faced by, I would say that indigenous people in America, and also preparation in Mali about people who have been wounded through years since the independence. And then after this class, then we decide, oh, we want to continue. We want to make this class and also to achieve our biggest goal, which is to include community engaged program into Malian curriculum. As Bienvenu say, we do not have in Francophone Africa community engaged program at university, at least at human science and later in human science, social science classes.
So I'm just going to stick my head in and say, it started out as co-teaching two classes.
Yes.
We co-taught Welore's class online, and we co-taught my class in person when she was here as an AAP resident scholar, and that continued after she finally went back after COVID sort of subsided a bit.
So so we started to invite the faculty from UNSHB, and one of our famous guests is the rector, vice chancellor, Professor Traore, who is coming. And so I just want to emphasize that, because that's a long work, and all that make us come to the point of Photovoice and working in the IDP camp. So then we have different phases. Of the last 2 years, we have been training those team leaders, we call also mentors, the students, to, for example, how to run a survey, sociological survey in the camp, how to be a mentor, what is a mentor, what should you know, how should you work with your mentees. We also train them, so I'll make them aware about some psychological, how to say that? I'm sorry. Psychosocial support, because we are working with youth with trauma. So what should you do if you detect some problem? Because we have official state worker in different camps, so you should reach to them, or you should reach to Steve and I, and then we can see how we're gonna make it. So those kind of things. So that also takes time to do, and they have also support with our partners who really have great experience in working with youth and traumatized person, like ISA, who sport, EOA, who are special educational say? Sure.
Mhm.
Okay. So yeah, so then we ran different phases on the project, and phase one was so this is a photo with me and those our mentors at the national park. So we do retreat because retreat and thinking, making plans, and how we're gonna work in camp. And we make like 4 months interview meeting with government institution, with camp people, IDP people like parents, because we need also to engage a conversation with parents that we have the authorization to work with youth, and then they can really understand what we are doing. So in this picture, this is actually the starting of activities, and each activity lasts 1 week in the camp. So activity one, that we call, so first activity one, we mainly work in emotion, link between emotion and everyday life in camp. For example, that was making pairs. So making pairs between mentors and mentees. So each mentor has 2 mentees, and they work like in question like what makes you angry in the camp? What makes you sad? What makes you feel joy? So those kind of questions that bring them to speak, to talk about the everyday challenges in the camp. And so this part is very important because we struggle a bit because we are working with different ethnic groups. And for example, I'm Fulani and I speak both Fulani and Bamananka, but there is others like Sonenke, Dogon, others languages. So we need the help of professionals from Amalan or other people which are coming in and helping us to develop this vocabulary, because it is not easy to talk about emotion. And also have help from professional drawers to draw, because sometimes you can say it, you can just draw it. Maybe.
Yeah. I want to add something about the word emotion. That's a famous word. The work in peace building has usually focused on the nuts and bolts of peace building. How can we redistribute land so it's fair? How can we sort of look at other resources so that people get what they want? All of those, how can we set up the rule of law in the city? How can we create a market that's free? And so people feel free to go to the market and buy and sell freely. All of those ingredients for peace building are necessary, but they are emotionally charged. If you step into a conversation about, land or grazing or farming and think that you're just going to be able to sort of split the difference or find a way to get people to go back to the way it was before, you suddenly discover, there is a lot of emotional investment in the way things are or the way they've been, right? So emotionally charged conflicts, right, are unavoidable in peace building work. And so to develop a language that is not supercharged, that it allows people to recognize their emotional investments, be more reflective about what, in the US we say, pushes their button, right? That is critical. And so these training sessions with the mentors from the university and the mentees from the IDP camps are designed to help them recognize in their everyday life in the camps, which oftentimes replicate the lives that they had lived before they got to the camp, recognize what pushes their buttons, recognize what alternative pathways are available for mediating, not eliminating, not resolving conflicts, but mediating the conflict so that it doesn't escalate into violence. So it's not, the way of dismissing this kind of thing is it's touchy-feely. Well, it's not touchy-feely, it's critical, right, for addressing, the sources of conflict and mediating without, believing that you can somehow miraculously resolve these long-standing conflicts. That's my 2 cents on emotions.
Thank you. So next steps, that's another activity run by International Sport Alliance. So that's the sport, emotion, and peace building. So they will play, for example, football, and then they will have session and reflection. So what do you act this way? And when it was, we run different, so mixed group sports, separate group sport. So that was so challenging, even if those girls. And then I let them put fun. So that wasn't easy to so it was challenging and so funny. And also they come to the big group also, that makes you sad. And when you are sad or when you had a violent interaction, sometimes with sport people are, why did you get to that? Why and how can you, so those kind of reflection. And so that's most about prevention. Yeah, that's what we try, and also to prompt dialogue about that. Thank you.
Next one.
Anything to?
Do I want to say anything about sports?
Yeah. Sport and peace building, if you want.
No, that's good.
Okay.
We can move on.
So the idea is that you're learning to manage their emotions within the sport context.
Yeah,
Yeah.
to continue it.
Yeah, to continue. Yeah. And so the next step, like our so that was, so that's actually the goal. So the other step was to prepare them to that. That's how to express emotion through photography. So that's what our photographers express. So here can you say, but she's one of the, she was very shy and didn't never touch. So at the end, she was the most and enjoyed photography. And this is the director of Yamaru Photo. That's the engaged photos, official photo, professional photographer who used to work with USAID, UNICEF, and large, very big international organization, and engaged for with us. So he just trying to show them. So that was 2 photos from Yamaru studio. And so here is an interesting. So this one guy is a trainer from Yamaru Photo, and this is a mentor, and the others are my team. They are analyzing at the end of every day. So that also lasts 1 week. The end of every day, they will be sitting in small group with different trainers, and they will analyze their photo. What do you want to express with this photo? So objective of our Photovoice is that you will work on caption. After, so the mentees will develop a caption to accompany their photo, and then we will do exhibition. So in this photo, you can see a scooter, which is very famous and important in Africa. So most of you have a scooter to the city. We have a lot of scooters. So then, yeah.
Okay. So as Welore is saying, this is an example of how we develop a visual literacy that's rich and connects the youth in the camps to important issues, conflicts, and gives them a language, both a visual language and a verbal language, to express their connections to material objects in the world. That moto or scooter can oftentimes be something very symbolic in a family. It could be what remains from the father or the mother of the family who passed away in a conflict. And in fact, we have many cases, many is an exaggeration. We have some cases in which the family retains the scooter or the moto, but doesn't use it because it is something that they cherish as a remembrance of the member of the family who passed away in sometimes a very violent conflict. So taking a picture of a moto is not just like taking a picture of your antique car that you polish, to a bright shine. It's taking a picture of something in your family that has historical significance. And what the trainer, this is CDK Hydera, and the mentor sitting right next to him, you can see the little red collar, and that is Yaya Koulibaly. What they're trying to do is have the students who took that picture begin to verbalize why they took the picture and what it means and what happened behind that picture that gave it that significance. and what they would want to say in a community dialogue about their picture to people who may feel very differently about the conflicts that that picture represents.
So, that's where we are. That was our last activity before this. Before I came to the US. So after we plan in October, early October. So we are planning early October is first exhibition. So we have about 1,000 photos. So we will have session with mentor, mentees, trainers, Steve from Zoom in Mali to select photos. So every mentee have many photos that he will choose the best one and explain to us and comment us why this is the best. What do you want to express through this photo? And so we will develop those making posters, and we will make a exhibition in early October in Yamaru Photo First and IDP camp to prompt a dialogue, inter-community dialogue at university, my university at ULSHB, and in neighborhood community. So maybe also to prompt dialogue, because there also have many micro conflicts, because you have a camp, maybe you have a big house, a nice house, and you don't like that much that there is IDP camp just near your house. So that also source, that is also a source of small micro conflict in the community. And after our next event is the organization of what we call the National Day of Peace Education at ULSHB. That will be November or December 2022. Then that's it. So we are looking for new partnerships, so to widening our network.
Right.
So in Mali and in the US and worldwide, and also support, because we need to continue. So as the projects come to the end in few months, PIRA, we started, we go, that's one problem. University, we used to go to community, like to make research. And when we have things, etc., done, we go back to the university. So we want to continue this work with those youth, because one of our goals, as Marcy said, is to build capacity, to develop the capacity, and we really want to continue to.
Right. Yeah, we're trying to infect the Benin group with Photovoice, and we think we're successful. We think we've infected them. We have another partnership in Senegal on institutional transformation. So we're working within the region, right? We're not trying to scale up in some kind of impossible way. We're also working with the Refugee Development Center in Lansing to talk to people here who've had similar experiences as the Les Déplacés in Mali. But rather than give you a list of all of our targets for fundraising, I think we'll stop.
Yes.
Okay.
And I will let Bienvenu continue with impressive project in Benin.
Thanks to Welore and Professor Steve for your great job in Mali. Sometimes I feel bad about this situation in Mali. I was in this country in 2017, and I met nice people, and I enjoyed my life there. But now, it's a problem, but I got this. The peace will come back. Okay. Okay. So, me, I'm from Benin. So the situation is not quite the same. No. In Benin, like I said before, we face problem with universities, youth, NGOs, many people. And before going ahead about that, that Benin is a small country in West Africa, and we have border with Nigeria, Burkina Faso, Niger, and we speak many local languages, more than 60 languages we have in this country. But despite this number of languages, these languages are not spoken, are not written by people. They cannot read them because they are not used in school. So is a problem we have. So to achieve our goal in Benin, we work with different NGOs that are specialized on many things. I have here, for instance, Batonga. I don't know if you know about our international singer, Angelique Kidjo. She's from Benin. So she created an ONGO, a foundation called Batonga in Benin, that deals with building capacity building with girls and women to give them independence. So we worked with Batonga for this project. We work also with the foster. Batonga is specialized with girls, but foster is with kids, with children, to build capacity in school to help them for their school. And we also worked with science parties. Here we had a group of young students that are aware of their situation and they want to change this situation. So we think that because they have this will to achieve their goal, we can work with them for this project. We work also with scientific admission without borders. So look, we can say we are so different and we are working each of us in our domain. So to start this project, we had this work plan together. So we meet them and we talk about the action that should be done with each of us with our whole plan. Here, for instance, we are in the university in our Canada. See how many people are in the class? There are many. So, and here there are not so many because I have my own class where I teach Fongbe, our most popular language in Benin. People are more than 600 in our class. But here, like we said before, they are not active. They don't know anything about community engagement. So we have this session, information session, to talk to them about community engagement, to empower them so that they can be active instead of waiting for government to give them job, to give them better situation. So they can, we want to empower them through this action. And my students, I said there are many. So how can we give them the skills to be useful to their society? We selected 30 of them with a small work that we did with Sobo. Sobo, we know about Sobo. Sobo is MSU here. So we selected 10 videos of Sobo, videos that talk about the problem we face in Benin, how to protect yourself against malaria, how to protect yourself against coronavirus, how to protect your products after harvest, how to save money, many problems, many subjects we are facing in Benin. So my students, we selected them, and what did they do? They translated these Salvo videos from English to Fongbe, the most popular languages. Why? Because many people have not gone to school, but they need also this knowledge, the knowledge through this video. So my students, they translated and they record themselves, their own voice. So through this activity, they acquire ability, skills now in technology, and also that will help them now to put this activity in their CV to be useful. So the materials we write like that have been used by another NGO we call Tracer. Tracer works with children, we work with women. The material built by my students have been used by Tracer for the public information in village. So is a prof that university can be useful to NGOs. Is what we did through this project. Here we are having published information with the professor. You say many kids are there and they need also knowledge, but they are in school, but they cannot even speak French. So if we want to teach them something, we don't use their local language, they cannot get it. So it's why the work we did with my student was very, very good for them. Okay, next steps. Marcy, we'll talk about that.
And I want to talk a little bit more. Bienvenu is giving himself not as enough credit for how much work went into his side of the project, because what he's talking about now was one project. And when we're talking about coming to consensus, trying to get, so you know, when you're writing a proposal and you're trying to come up with who are all of your partners, you reach out to your network and you think, okay, who might have an interest in something? And when you write the grant proposal, you think you know maybe what's going to happen, but we always know that things always change, right? And what really happens is sometimes different from what you think might happen. So when selecting these partners, it was, these are NGO partners who were open to potentially partnering with a university in a way that they'd never done before. So that was the criteria. We knew them, they were open to it, and they thought maybe we'll participate. That's great when you're writing the proposal. When you get the proposal, after you do your dance of joy, then the real work really starts, right? How are we going to make this happen? And so Bienvenu needed to get all of these partners in the same room sometimes, except Sabo would be remote typically, to try to figure out, how do we do something together? How are we going to find a shared common goal, other than there's a lot of youth unemployment, we're facing these challenges, we have materials that might not be available in the language that everyone speaks, but what maybe one NGO wants to do might be very different from what another NGO wants to do. We tried to come to some consensus of a real overall project for everyone, and eventually decided that maybe because there's one person trying to integrate this into his classes, and those of us who have taught anything, even if it's teaching children at home how to pick up their clothes, you know, maybe you're not going to be able to teach everybody the same way. So Bienvenu had to work with his partners and decide to say, okay, each of you is doing a separate project. We're all related. We have quarterly stakeholder meetings, but he couldn't do everyone's project at one time in one class, especially because this was an 18-month grant and we're working in semesters. And so what Bienvenu ended up doing is his semester, the last semester, was spent on a project with Toisseur using Sabo, and you know, again, selecting the students, deciding who would participate, figuring out how to put it in his syllabus. How is he going to grade this? So we kind of figured it was a little bit like an honors option. Like, we've got all 600 students, they're all doing their assignments. And then for those highly motivated students who wanted to be a part of the project, they would have some of their assignments replaced by this assignment. And had to work out a way so that this didn't create tons more work for somebody who had another 570 students in that one class, right? So that's what he was working on with Batong, or with Toisseur and Sabo. And when we think about the bonus, right, so that it's assets based, Toisseur, community-based organization, was able to say, this is what we need. We've looked at the Sabo video library. There's, you know, 200 videos, right, on the Sabo library or something along there. Which ones of those are useful for us? That's how that selection process of which videos to use. Then Bienvenu gave them to his students and came up with a process where he then wasn't going to have to grade 30 additional translations, but have them work in groups. There were 10 videos, 3 people working on each video, and then they would work on the translations together, submit one assignment to him, which he could correct and let them know. So then they would work on their pronunciation of how to read the language that they know, that they've known since they were a child, but haven't had much experience reading it in a way that's conversational. So it sounds the same way as it does when you speak it. So Then working with that groups, that then was handed over to the ONG. Then the ONG or the NGO was working directly with SABO on how do we record these and recording them on smartphones. But it's not easy to find a soundproof room anywhere. In Benin, it's a bit even more difficult. There's a lot going on. There's motorcycles, there's a lot of students around. The buildings are made of concrete, so they have great acoustics, which is what you want when you've got 600 students, not what you want when you're trying to record something that's going to be put onto an animated video. So, they sort of went back and forth with SABO, and SABO gave them some of the best practices that they'd found, which is find a cardboard box. You can find a cardboard box anywhere. Find some pillows. You can find pillows anywhere. Put your head in the box surrounded by the pillows with your smartphone like this, and you will eliminate almost all of that exterior noise. Right? So this is what happened. And then going back and forth. So then as we sent those clips, or as Toiser sent the clips to SABO of these like 15-second clips to put in the animation, we have someone at SABO who doesn't speak Fongbe, who is putting them together, but thinks that they're on the same time because we've done them in tracks. Then would need to send them back to the ONG, watch the video, make sure that the audio and the video are the same. And so then that process went back and forth, back and forth. But what has been gained through that is that the Toiser organization has gained technological skills, has gained communication skills, working back and forth with SABO. At the same time, then figuring out how to disseminate that information. So some of those videos that were selected were used at a WASH program that we did at a primary school, where there were the ONG had built some latrines as part of the project. But we didn't want to just leave it there and say, okay, there's the bathrooms, like let's make it a bigger day of WASH and teach the kids about things related to water, health, sanitation. And so that's how those videos were then being used on tablets, and the kids could go around to different stations and see animated videos that tell, why is it important to seal up that hole in your mosquito net? This is how you can do it, even if you don't have a sewing machine nearby you. This is how you can fix that mosquito net and prevent malaria. So Bienvenu students then were able to be a part of that sensibilisation, or that day of WASH, and see the impact of what they were doing in the class, and also put all of this stuff like, yes, I've done translations. I've done something that has been used in the community. I've learned how to use this technology. I know now how to record something, even if it's loud outside, right? And all of that can go on their CV. So, because we also don't want to think about community engagement as something that's only good for us. How is it good for the students? Why would a student take on extra work? Welore students are working, they're going on the weekends. They're spending their weekends doing this project. Their classes at night. Bienvenu's meeting with his students on the weekends. We recognize that community engagement often takes us outside of what we would normally think of as our study time or our class time. What makes it worthwhile is connection to the community, but also how are we addressing one of those other objectives of high unemployment? All of the students on all of these projects now have something more to add on their CV. They have practical application, and it can help them say, what do I do with a degree in linguistics? Oh, wow, there's a lot I can do with a degree in linguistics. And that will make them more valuable to the community as a whole. So I think, and then if we think about, that's only one of the projects that Bienvenu has worked on with his ONG partners. The next one is coming up in November. So I will let you talk about the November Batanga project. Yes.
Okay. Batanga project, we'll have it in November. Batanga have mentor to train the girls. So these girls use Fongbe and other Benin languages for sensibilization. Sensibilization. Sensitization, okay, in radio. So they need to know how to write Fongbe and many other languages of Benin. But Batanga don't have these skills. So they need university support. Is why we are working on that now. In November, we are going to train them, their mentor. and give them this ability so that then they also can give this ability to their mentees later. So that will be disseminating like this. So that is in November, we are going to talk about that with Batonga. After that, we want to have exhibition in the campus because many things have been done by lecturers, by the researchers, but nobody knows it. I remember during our workshop in May, we have a talk with a lecturer, and the committee was surprised because they were wondering, oh, many other things have been done like that in our university, but so they don't know. So this exhibition will allows people to know what is going on in the university. So change our research like that. We want also to have a training with lecturers at the campus, because sometimes when they are making their research, they need to use our local languages. I told you that local languages are not taught in school. So they need how to translate, how to write in our language to get the real information from the population, from the societies, but they don't have these skills. So we want also to have the training with them to teach them how to write in their local languages. We want for that partnership, more partnership, like my colleague Welore said, to go ahead. You know, in our universities, we don't have community engagement in our curricula. No, it doesn't exist at all. But we see through this project that is very important things. So if we can have more partners, we can have more support, we go ahead in this project. Thank you very much. Thank you.
So one last thing quickly before we open it up to Q&A is the title of our project when we first envisioned it was Building Bridges and Partnerships for Youth Empowerment in Francophone Africa. And so, as I mentioned, you know, when we wrote the grant, we were thinking, well, COVID's going to be over soon. It's going to be great. And COVID wasn't over soon. So a lot of our activities needed to go online. And just so some of the ways that we were able to build bridges, even when we were geographically dispersed, was through online workshops. And one thing I wanted to mention about this is we thought we'll have this Zoom workshop and we'll have all these youth there. And then we're going to ask them these questions and they're going to be able to speak freely, which was fairly naive of us, thinking that they were going to do this while there were other people on the Zoom, such as the rector of the university and professors and people that they don't know. And so after our first workshop, we were slightly saddened by the fact that it was just us talking. And we were like, okay, something's got to change here. So we talked to the youth privately, separately afterwards and said, so what happened? And they said, I felt shy, like I felt nervous, or I didn't feel like this is too big. So we wanted to do something to break down that hierarchy. And we had a second online workshop where we said, okay, it's going to be breakout rooms and none of us are in the breakout rooms. And we're really only there in the very beginning to say hi. And then you guys talk with a facilitator within your groups and come back to us and talk about your challenges. Talk about, and we just said, had some prompts. What are your biggest challenges? And these were some of those things like I want peace. There's high unemployment. I don't know what to do with my life. And why am I here in this situation that I'm in? So everyone had different things, but we were able to get more input from the youth. So then as we planned a Benin workshop in person, we wanted again to bring in the community, but we had learned from our online experience. If we have a workshop and we bring in youth, especially youth who are not at the university, who come to the university campus, we know the importance of place. And that place may make someone feel at home. It may also make someone feel alienated or like they don't belong even when they're there. So we tried to do something at the very beginning of the workshop to make everyone feel at ease. And Steve had a great idea. And the idea was, let's bring Play-Doh. So we brought Play-Doh with us and had everyone get into groups where we purposefully mixed them between countries. So we had participants from Mali participants from Benin, participants from the US. We had the rectors of universities. We had assistants on the projects. We had those who'd been to school, those who hadn't been to school. Mixed groups, gave them at separate tables, gave them Play-Doh, gave them some small sticks and said, this is your land. You each represent a different part of society. It's not, and we're not saying this is who you are right now. Choose what part of society you want to be. One person said, I want to be the head of a women's group. Another one said, I want to be a farmer. Another one said, I want to be somebody who's into sports, right? So then we said, this is your Play-Doh. These are your sticks. Design a community, but you have to do it together. And you have to have these limited resources to design it. And everyone got so creative, and you could see and feel. At the beginning, they were shy, right? Like in the beginning, we said, okay, here's the Play-Doh, go for it. And it's like, who's gonna touch the Play-Doh first? Who's gonna do what? But after probably 15 minutes, people really started getting into it. When we called time at like 35 minutes, no, we're not done yet. We're not done. And then we went around and everyone introduced their community. And then we talked about, and this was another thing that I thought was really insightful, was like, how did you come to consensus? Were there times when you felt like it wasn't fair, that you weren't getting enough Play-Doh or enough space on the table for what you wanted? How did that make you feel? So once again, I was learning while doing this from your work on peace building and emotion. I was learning in this workshop, like, oh, these are some questions I might never have asked. And so that was a wonderful learning experience for me. So I will leave you with, this was one of the tables explaining their community that they had built at our workshop, and it was wonderful. So we're really looking forward to building bridges through other in-person and online events. There's a Mali workshop that's going to be, inshallah, coming up in November, December. And then we will be closing out our project probably in February, March. And when I say closing out our project, I mean the PIRA portion of our project, because as you can see, we're excited. You can't get us to stop talking about it. And we want to really keep going. So I'm going to close with that and leave it for Q&A, but just thank you all for being here. You want me to? Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, thank you. And the in-person audience has questions, please feel free. We're gonna take questions, and then we're gonna go online to look at what questions we have online. But thank you so very much for a very, very wonderful presentation. We're grateful for your presentation. So we'll take it from here. Okay, Isaac, go ahead.
The question is simple. What does Batonga mean?
And if you can repeat the question.
Okay.
For the
Oh, yeah.
online.
And so for those online, the question was, what does Batonga mean?
I don't know, but I asked them. I know one of sorry, one of Angelique's songs, and he said Batonga, Batonga. Okay, people told me that it comes from this song. It's like it's all yes, it's what I know about Batonga. But I do not have questions. I have contributions. Thank you.
Yeah, great.
Thank you.
And then if you come here, they can see you on the.
Okay, so good morning. My name is Usman Sango from Mali. I am a Fulbright visiting scholar at African Studies Center here for a research project lasting 9 months. So I heard your interventions, and I will start with that of Welore, so my countrymates, who spoke of the situation in Mali. So what I want to add is that Mali and Benin are both former colonies of France. So the system of colonization of France was very different from the system of Great Britain, because colonization system of France was called assimilation. They did not limit themselves to colonize the country and the riches of the country, but also culturally to make people leave their culture and take the culture of France. And that is why after colonization, all the colonies, former colonizers, they left Africa, but France is still in Africa under a partnership called France-Afrique. They say France-Afrique. What does it mean? Economically, for example, our currency, the currency we use is called CFA franc. So this franc is guaranteed by France. You see, economically, we are under the stranglehold of France. And then militarily, we have also agreements with France, defense agreements. But when the first coup happened in 2012, Welore spoke of 3 coups, but in Mali, we spoke of 2 coups, because the third one is called a rectification. You see, the first coup was in 2012, Amadou Ayasanogo's coup, and after that, United Nations and all the world, they came to help Mali to overcome jihadism. But it was not possible. Those people who are called terrorists, they are just few thousand or few hundreds. But the militaries coming from all over the world, there are more than 30,000. But they could not overcome some people, some hundred of people. You see, this is very suspicious. And that is why in 2020, when there was the coup, so the militaries of the transition, so they decided to interrupt with France. So nowadays, there is no relationship, diplomatic, everything with France. Mali has nothing to do with France because everything has been interrupted. And what is the result of that? So terrorism was reduced. And those who were displaced, because we have seen some population were displaced from their villages to Bamako. So many of them, they returned to their initial places. So people suspect France of being of maintaining this terrorism for what? For this is a greater question mark. So this is what I wanted to contribute. So today we have a General Assembly starting from yesterday in New York, General Assembly of the United Nations. So Mali has a complaint against France at the United Nations, so accusing France of financing and maintaining terrorism in Sahel. This is official. It is official. Now coming to national languages, the use of national languages in Benin. So in Mali, I don't know quite the situation in Benin, but in Mali, we have a lingua franca called Bambara. It is a language spoken almost everywhere in West Africa. So this language is written. So we have Amala, we have structures, national institutions that are here to promote national languages. And we even try to implement Bamanaka at school. And it was very successful because people learning in their native languages, they understand better. But nevertheless, it could not succeed in Mali because of the system, the cultural system controlled by the ex-colonizer. This is the situation. This is the reality. Good. So that is what I wanted to tell you about Mali and what I know also about Benin. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Any other questions from the audience here? Or I can go to the, yes.
Thank you very much. This is very enlightening of video. And so it's the idea of engagement and how to get the universities to get more involved in engagement. It seems like in Benin, for instance, that was a large and technique. So like 100 students, how many faculty are involved in this, and how was this organized? How would you, I know universities are very static about changing curriculum and structure, even just building introducing a new course, you have to go through committees and all that. How would you get a project that's done by 600 students and there's an outreach activity?
It's a big challenge. It's a big challenge because okay.
Really repeat the question.
So it's a big challenge. We have many faculties with many students. You know, the problem is Benin. The problem is in Benin words. What I'm saying. What the problem is Benin. The problem in Benin is when you have your baccalaureate, just the first baccalaureate, your back, when you have your back, you are allowed to go to university. So we don't need another test to go to university. But the number of students that are graduate in baccalaureate each year is increasing. So is why many students are coming every year in the campus. But at the same moment, the government is not giving us support, building or having higher lecturers for that. No, it's not as it is not goes like that. That's a big problem we are facing now. I know talking about community engagement is a big challenge. I don't know, but we are talking about that, especially with our young colleague like us, because the former the dean the answer.
Yeah,
the old lecturers, they are so selfish and they are so proud of their system. They don't want young to open their system to change things. So it's a big challenge, but I know that one day we can achieve that goal. It's a very big challenge there.
I think this may be also one of those cases where we say sometimes it's better to ask forgiveness than permission. So I think that, doing a project like this, especially doing it as an additional thing with the students, we want to show, wow, this was really impactful and get support from within the university at that point. So when we had the workshop in Benin, we were invited to go. Who did we meet with at the university? Remember, we went to the office of
we went to the vice chancellor.
The vice chancellor, and so just
the whole team of the university.
Yeah. So just telling them about what we were doing already, rather than saying we'd like to change the curriculum and this is how we're going to do it.
Yeah.
Was one of those cases where it's like,
having participants into a nice class, engaged class, having students writing internship reports on the class and the working we are doing in ID. So we try to change from the world. No, we are not writing something and going to the institutional level and say, you want to do that, you want to do that. Instead of that, we want to bring that and slowly, bring change. And then the more we get strategic involved on that, the more we can change and achieve our goals.
There's a great question in the Q&A online that I think that Welore would be able to answer about the variety of ages in the IDP camps. So what was the engagement with the community handled differently depending on age groups?
So, maybe we directly to this project,
Mhm.
we have.
Jeunes. And thank you to those online for your wonderful questions.
So, thank you for your question. And through this project in IDP camp, you have youth. We have youth from 14. We have 30 youth from 14 years to 22 years old, and we have 22 boys and 8 girls, and it was so challenging to have the girls involved in. And at the beginning, we just only have 5 girls, and then 3 others join. And the more we are doing things, and that makes the others wanting to join. But for this project, we just have a limited number to 30, just because of financial occasion and many other occasions. But maybe we'll try to get more and more for you funding. Thank you.
Do you want to address the next one down there, which is interesting as well, would be directed to your Photovoice project.
Let me read it. Yes and no. So as youth, they try to get more. I mean, they friends, photos, etc. And sometimes their family, their grandma, etc. That more and more just have photos from the tent in the camp, photos of animals. So there are a lot of Fulanis, that's my ethnic group, who are raising animals. In each camp, you have many animals. Those know, and sometimes just daily, they're daily objects. So yeah.
The next question. So one of the questions on here was, would someone discuss the funding that has been provided for this work in both Mali and Benin? And this project was funded through the Alliance for African Partnership, and we are one of the PIRA awards. So the Partnerships for Innovative Research in Africa. And so that is how we had our funding. And as we indicated, it was an 18-month project. We're probably going to extend it with a no cost. So we'll just use the same money for a 2-year project because of the challenges we've had to face due to COVID and border being closed. We do have someone who's raised their hand. Ganiat Tijani Adenle, if you would like to unmute and ask your question. And if you're speaking, we can't hear you yet. If you need to unmute. Oh, I have to unmute them? Okay. Oh, sorry. So sorry, I was supposed to unmute you.
Yeah, let's see. We have to.
Great.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much. It's been a very interesting session. I just wanted to say that the chat box wasn't disabled, so I wasn't able to type, to ask questions and to commend you for the beautiful research. It's been a very, very interesting session. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Did you have any questions you wanted to ask as well to the presenters?
Oh, okay, no, I think I'm fine. Some of them were eventually taken care of with comments, at some other time.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. We all appreciate it. Thank you. Any other questions? I think we are now at the hour. So thank you all so much. I think there's one more question. Okay. What did you learn from the Photovoice exercise that you wouldn't have otherwise learned? And are you going to publish those results? And if so, how maintain the privacy of the participants? So we'll have the presenters come up and respond to that question.
So I would say that one of I learned from so much. I had some fierce at the beginning. So that was hard because the kids, the youth we are working with, mostly they go to school maybe in primary school for 1 or 2 years. So I didn't know how we're gonna make it with, for example, working with professional photographer and those camera to professional camera, because those things are, for example, very expensive, and we had them from Yamaru Photos, and I didn't know if they can get it. Students had training, but students are they use, and those are students in technology, so they used to do things with technical things, and I didn't know that. I was so amazed that after 2 days of training, the youth were able to take photos. They were able to manage. That's something that I'm not sure that I can do actually. So that was their ability to adapt and to learn, and also to find a way. Sometimes Amala is not always with us, and I speak only 2 languages. Some students 2 or 3, maybe 2 languages, mainly Bamanaka, but many of them did not. But we try to manage to get and it through language challenges. So that was also one incredible thing that I can say.
Yeah. In terms of what we're going to be doing with the work, we've been asked by the editor for a special issue of the Journal for Global Ethics to present a proposal to publish the work, which requires that we meet the university rules with regard to institutional review board permission, IRB permission. So we're developing a questionnaire for the students who would be sort of involved in the final sort of selection of photographs and captioning. And our hope is that this project will be of interest to other folks who are also working with people for whom visual literacy is an important asset and skill that they need to negotiate some of the difficult challenges that they face. So we're hopeful to disseminate the work initially in that direction, and then we'll be presenting it at a conference at McMaster University in Hamilton, Ontario later this year, and again at the African Studies Association meeting in November in Philadelphia. There'll be more about the importance of photography. One thing I would add to what Welore said about the photographs that the students took. If you look back at the Pulitzer Prize winning photographs from the New York Times for last year that focused on asylum seekers, refugees, and migrants, they're all sort of about the plight of those people. They're all about the sorrow and the suffering and the harm. And those are important sort of stories to be told. But what we found as we introduced this technology to people in the camp who are not asylum seekers, they want to stay in Mali, they are in Mali, but they are struggling with some very difficult issues of poverty and alienation and powerlessness. The photographs that they took had a certain sort of vitality and enthusiasm. I don't want to sort of overdo it, but you could see this slight smile on the face of the young girl who is looking down at her camera. You know, there was a sense of dignity. And even the people whose lives have been sort of most difficult in the camps, the elderly, for example, there's a certain dignity and composure, I would call it radical poise, that they maintain that you don't see in those Pulitzer Prize winning photographs when they're taken by somebody else about the person who's suffering.
Because
Yeah.
also the cultural context, I think,
Yeah.
because when you come from the US, or we have always been in the US, for you, something that, oh my God, this is like poverty, or this is so. But from another perspective, when you come from Africa, for example, when I think about when I was young and spent like 3 months a year in the desert of Sahara, that was the most beautiful moment in my life. But I didn't have a lot of things. my community, Fulani, didn't have a lot of things. So that's kind of, I'm not saying that being a camp is a pleasure, but I think that the perspective you are seeing people is also maybe different and also guided by your own cultural context. I will stop it.
Thank you so very much. We are very honored to have you all here and present your work. We very much enjoyed it. And it was good to be back in person. Now, it was wonderful. So we'll see you all next Thursday. We're gonna be back 100% online, but hopefully there will be other in-person events. So this was a great experience, and thank you again for all of you, and we appreciate it. Well, thank you to the audience for your questions, your comments. We all appreciate it. So bye-bye.
Can I get a picture of everyone screen?
Thank you, Awa.
Thank you so very much.
Where should we be?